So have you ever considered building the best PRS rifle possible? And if you were to build your best PRS rifle or your dream PRS rifle, what components would you use? Well, folks, my name is Kenny, and thanks for joining the Eagle's Nest. Today's video is going to be just that. What are we doing? We are building a 6mm GT specifically designed for PRS. So we're using a JGS reamer. We do have a heavy contour truck axle, Brux barrel, and this one is a 1 7.5 twist. It is, like I said, a Brux. If you guys are familiar with Brux, they are very synonymous in the 6mm world for building one of the best 6mm barrels out there. And what's behind this little red box is from Falkor Defense. This is the most smoothest action I've ever felt, and this surprisingly only weighs a pound. So today's video, we're going to build the best PRS rifle that I could possibly build, my dream PRS rifle. In fact, this is going to go to a good friend of mine, so he is hell lucky. So stay tuned, you guys will like this one. Now, what's inside of here is the new LW7 action. LW stands for lightweight, and is basically their 7 action, but obviously scalloped out and made very light. Now, why am I picking this action for a PRS build is kind of an oxymoron. Now, this action itself, excluding the rail, weighs about just 1 pound. This is extremely light. There is a lot of scallops done to the action itself, including into the trigger assembly itself, or trigger pocket. A lot of recesses here that makes it very appealing to the eye. This scope base itself is actually a Defiance machine. This is a stainless steel scope base, and we did that for rigidity. But this action, you can see here in the front, there's a lot of weight taken out. Surprisingly, this action, being only about 1 pound, isn't made out of titanium. The bolt itself is very, very light. You can see that it's fluted heavily here. Uses a M16 style extractor. One single ejector plunger there, traditional 700 action. And the bolt knob is also hollowed out, spiraled, and also built to reduce weight. Now, I believe this bolt's made out of chromoly steel that's hardened. To give you guys an idea how light this action is, we'll go ahead and put just the bolt on here. And the bolt itself only weighs 7.7 ounces. So as I mentioned, the action itself is extremely smooth. I mean, it is the smoothest action I've ever felt. And if you guys don't know, I actually build a lot of custom rifles. I build a lot of centerfire and rimfire. This by far, I don't know what they really do as far as the coating. I believe it's nitrided, but just the fit and quality of this action itself, extremely butter. And why are we choosing this action and putting a very heavy barrel on there is simply to move the weight outward. Now, we're trying to reduce the weight as much as possible. These PRS rifles generally weigh around 18 to 24 pounds. And what I would like to do is see if I could build a straight contour barrel, put the weight out towards the barrel itself to have better balance, and get the rifle to weigh roughly 18 to 19 pounds. It's going to look very heavy, but it's going to be about a pound or 2 pounds lighter. So let's get to it. Let's get this barrel on the lathe. Let's get it cut for the Falkor LW7 action. Let me show you what it's all about. So I have the barrel on the lathe, and I have a range rod into the bore that's going to get me pretty close to getting me lined up center line of the bore before chambering. And one of the things to look forward to is seeing how well this barrel was made, or how well the bore was cut or drilled. And one of the things I did notice, which I'm going to ding Brux on specifically this barrel, and I'm going to run this thing at 70 RPM. You'll see that the 1/10 indicator is barely moving, about a tenth on both sides. So it's running pretty true to the bore center line. However, the muzzle side is bouncing pretty significantly. I'll put a dial indicator on here. Give you guys a general idea. That is a 5/10 thou dial indicator. And it is going well over 30 thou. So ideally, I look for something that's around 20 thou or less. This being over 30 thou is kind of in the realm of I don't know, as far as if it's going to produce its accuracy. But we'll continue on. We'll see what this does. But that's one thing I'm pretty disappointed, particularly with this barrel, having a Brux name brand. All right, got the long reach dial indicator indicating the lands here within a tenth. And so we are going to set up for pre-boring and getting a bolt nose relief cut on the barrel. So we have the bolt nose recess cut out, and I am ready for chambering. So we have a bore through flush system here. That's what you see, that pan down there. And I am using a solid reamer holder. Now this is a handmade reamer holder that is dead nuts in line with the bore of my lathe. So we are going to ream this with a JGS reamer, Revision C. That's the newest design that they have, and 6mm GT. And let's see how this thing ends up running. Alright, just finished up chambering the rifle. I have a brand new 6GT case. I did put a spent primer in there. And this thing was basically polished. The chamber itself was polished with 4/0 steel wool. Kind of gave it a little bit of swirl mark. You don't really want a super high polished chamber. That actually mitigates the whole reasoning of using brass in the first place. You want the brass to expand when fired and gripping the chamber wall. So I want to check the fitment of the chamber itself. This is one of the things that I do. And this is the benefit of a solid reamer holder. So I'm going to plug the other end here, give it a little bit of an air gap, and see what that chamber does. So you can see that's an airtight fitment. Everything is fitting very well. So I was going to push that all the way in. Yeah, that is a solid lockup. There is no movement. In fact, it's going to take a little bit of me prying that brass out to remove. So that right there tells me that I chambered this thing very tight. It is to the actual reamer specifications, and it's going to fit this GAP brass, OCD brass, very, very well. All right, threads are all done. Chamber's all done. Let's put the action on, check the fitment, check the headspace. Hey, action is screwed on extremely smooth. There is barely any play, especially when you get down towards the front of here. There is no play whatever. So this is exactly how you want to fit an action onto the threads. Nice gradual resistance all the way to a solid lockup on the shoulder there. So one of the things that I do is time the curvature of the bore. So we'll get the high spot here, and that is right there, and the action is sitting right about 12 o'clock, so maybe slightly off at 11:30, but that is basically essentially what I do. Some folks don't believe that timing the curvature of the bore helps and does anything. I've done extensive testing and found that it does help out alleviate some of the vertical dispersion, especially at 1,000 yards. So I continue to do it. It's just results that I've seen downrange really perform versus having it timed left and right. When curvature of the bore, from what I've seen, especially when barrels get pretty warm, it starts to deflect towards the low side, and that'll start throwing some of your horizontal stringing. So timing this thing right at 12 o'clock or near 12 is ideal. And that's going to give you some more elevation as well on your scope. Alright, 6GT from JGS Go Gauge. Put this into the chamber here. And we have the action torqued down on the lathe. I was able to use a headstock stop, and the headspace, that goes on pretty good. So you can feel a little bit of resistance. So I can feel a little bit of resistance, and that's telling me that is headspace right at the minimum. That's exactly where I want it, and this thing should fit the brass very, very well. Alright, so I have the barrel indicated for the muzzle brake we're going to put on here in about 1/10,000. See that spinning there? And what essentially I'm going to use for a muzzle brake is this big honking muzzle brake from MBM. Now this is the Super Beast 2. It is a 8-port, or basically 4-port design, 8 ports total, self-timing muzzle brake, 125 straight contour. This is going to be able to blend into the barrel. So what I'm going to do is actually face off the barrel, or face off this muzzle brake from the back side here to get it nice and flush and flat. And then I'm going to blend this self-timing piece right here onto the barrel. Now the threads on this are 3/4 by 24, not the traditional 5/8 24 that you see in most 6mm or PRS style rifles. And the reason why I'm doing that is to mitigate the chances of opening up the bore. Some folks are saying that they don't see this phenomenon. I really see it quite often, even with this being a cut rifled barrel, this Brux barrel here. When you start turning down this contour of a barrel, and for instance 5/8 24, so that's 625 thou, or for instance half by 28, which is 0.5 by 28 TPI, there is a high chance of opening up the bore right here at the muzzle, and that is the most critical area for accuracy. You want the bore to be uniform. This is the last thing that the projectile is going to see. So what ends up happening is that these barrels are stress relieved from the factory. There's a lot of tension put around the bore, and you can in fact see a little bit of it right there. You see a little bit of rings right here. And even though I face this off, this is a continuous ring that I see, and that is something to do with the tension or the tempering of the metal. When you start tapering this thing down to 5/8 24, the outward pressures of the bore are going to are basically going to release, and it's going to basically open up the bore diameter. So 3/4 by 24 threads is specifically for this heavy barrel contour, is what we're going to use to mitigate that situation. And we're going to go ahead and cut the threads. So the muzzle brake is on, and it's not 100% blended yet. What I'm going to do is get the barrel turning on centers, and then polish the barrel and blend this little line right into the barrel. So you can see here, it's very close. Again, this is a self-timing muzzle brake, so I could spin just this inner portion here if I get it unlocked. It's on there. But anyways, it self-times. But you can see this muzzle brake will look very, very good with this straight contour barrel. All right, polishing the barrel. Got the muzzle brake pretty much blended in. Can't tell right there. I'm gonna get this all polished up and show you guys the end results. Well, folks, here is the rifle here, and you can see it put together in a Accuracy International ATX AICS chassis. And no better thing to do besides getting the rifle to the hands of the owner, the infamous Silver Fox X-Ring. Not only do I have the X-Ring, I have the machine Chris Way here, and he's also going to give this thing a test. So awesome little feedback we're going to get from two of the best long-range shooters I could possibly think of right now, shooting the 6GT at distance. We are literally getting this thing sighted in 100 yards, and we are going to stretch it out to this vast field we have out here. What's the range we have out here, Chris?
This is our range out at Fort Morgan.
Yeah.
So we use for sniper's hide and rifle craft training. We got targets. We got targets to a mile. We got 160 degrees field of fire, and you know, probably 30 targets right now. We could add and remove and shift stuff, but yeah, man, we got targets from, you know, I would say max size 2.5 MOA to 1 MOA between 300 yards to a mile, and 160 degrees of field of fire to be able to test wind, test essentially anything that you want if you're shooting out at distance.
Right. So this rifle has only been test fired once, just to get the brass to make a modified case gauge, and we're going to get the feedback of basically having this thing set up with a heavy barrel, how this thing actually performs off barricades, you know, get Chris's input. He shoots a lot of rifles. Obviously, if you guys aren't aware, the Kraft Challenge is an excellent program to see your fundamentals. So huge shout out to Chris on that one. And like I said, we'll see what it does downrange. How did that recoil feel?
The recoil is very soft.
That's a 108 ELD.
109.
109.
Yeah,
okay.
109. So let's. I'm gonna go ahead and put like 3 in here. We'll see if this mag actually works and feeds.
Okay.
Okay. So now that we have it zeroed, I think fed so smoothly I didn't even feel it. So now that we have it, should be good. I just need to confirm it with another shot. We're gonna go bottom pasty. Just a hair wide of bullseye. Let's go second shot. Not the greatest. But remember, it is brand new. And that's a bullseye on the last one. So, like I said, this is going to continue to come in because all total, we've only shot, I think, 5 rounds total, including the proof round that you did when you built it.
Correct.
So 4 rounds out of the rifle. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and zero the turret out, and we'll go ahead and take this out to long range.
And look at that. Look at that balance, guys.
I got your balance.
Oh yeah, on video, got that one.
It was 7 mils. I'm going to go to 1,000 again.
6.8.
And let's see. Wind hold.
Impact.
Yeah, it's super soft. I mean, I never lost sight of it, really. Even what you guys are seeing in the camera, you got to remember, we're shuffling independent of this camera that's attached to the scope.
Right.
But you can track it the whole way, and no problem seeing those impacts. So, very impressive rifle. You guys need to try to shoot it.
God, that is really soft.
And
It's not. It's nice.
you're completely standing. Are you free recoiling this or no?
No.
It's like not moving on you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice. It feels good. I don't know what else to say. It feels good. What was the 400? What was the 600? Oh, 600 just spun. What's 400?
I don't know how much ammo we have left.
I think you have 2 more.
At 400, we are looking at...
I just want to see what the recovery is as we get closer.
Yeah, exactly.
2.2. We have plenty of ammo. We just got to go get it.
No, I just like, I think, you know, at a distance you could recover fast, but up close it's hard to recover.
Yeah, especially that 400-yard distance everybody talks about. Hold on, I got
Yeah, it
6
feels
more
nice.
right here.
I mean, it's not, it's a mild impulse straight to the rear.
Right.
So it's nice. Like some rifles, like they want to do this.
Yeah.
And this isn't doing that. Like it's not coming up, and I don't know if that's because
Of
the
the barrel.
balance of the heavy barrel is where the mass is coming from, or you know, that's it's interesting. It feels really nice. Let's see, you know, I think we need to confirm the speed. And the distance of that target.
So 1.5. All right, so try it at 400. There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
1.5 is the data. What's the recovery on that like at 400?
This barricade moves. So what we're seeing here is the barricade move. It's teetering on the ground. See how it's teetering?
Yep.
So when I lean into it, it teeters, and then when I back off, it comes up. But on the shot itself, I'll do a demo. I'm not going to lean into the barricade like I would normally, so that it doesn't teeter back. The plate just spun left. You know, that was not even managing the recoil, because I normally I would lean in, but it's teetering the barricade. And so that was essentially no recoil management firing, and it came up. We'll have to review the trigger
cam. Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not making stuff up, but
yeah,
that was no recoil management. That was the shot. And the target was, you know, they're leaning left and right, but here, I'll aim at that one. No recoil management. Oh.
So this is a half MOA target at a little over 1,000 yards. So I believe we have the trigger cam going. I'm in an awkward position because of the height of the knee. But let's see if I can get everything timed right. I'm going to hold half right. Impact, left edge. Guys, that's super, super soft. Impact. Oh, off right or off left just a little bit. Elevation's a hair high.
How wide is the target?
The target is 4/10 wide.
Hold 6/10 more, so hold 3.1 mils, and same elevation.
Ready?
Yeah.
No sight.
Nothing.
Oh, too much wind. Elevation's good. So that's going to be one, based on what I'm reading, I think it's about 1.5. Ready?
Yeah.
Off left. So I think we're chasing a bunch of wind here. Let me do one more and then we're going to let it cool for a second. We'll do 1.7. No sight, no call. Impact. Yeah, it's super soft. I mean, I never lost sight of it really. Even what you guys are seeing in the camera, you got to remember, we're shuffling independent of this camera that's attached to the scope, but you can track it the whole way and no problem seeing those impacts. So, very impressive rifle.